Hello everyone and welcome to another What I Think review, and today we're going to be doing a bit of a retro review looking back at this set. This was the 8th Doctor and Alpha Dalek set from the comic Children of the Revolution, which was released during the 50th anniversary of the show as part of a Toys R Us exclusive range of Doctor and Dalek figures. Now this is one that is already open because I've had it on display. I actually got the Dalek separately. And I got the Doctor with the box itself, which I then took out the box again, but I kept the box. I decided recently to put it all back into the box for the display, but it's a very nice featured box. I'm not actually going to take the Dalek out of the packet or the figure, partly because they were a bit difficult to get back into the packet, but also because other than the colour scheme wise, there's not a huge amount that's different to them. But the main reason I wanted to do this as a sort of retro review was to look back on these sets, specifically this set with the 8th Doctor, for a reason that will become clear in a minute. Because obviously nowadays we've been getting sort of, well, we had Doctor and Davros, and we've had a companion and a Dalek set, but they sort of seem to be sort of making a little bit of a comeback, and it would certainly be one that would be very nice to see, to see re-released perhaps, because I know a lot of people would like this set, but also it would be a great way to re-release this Dalek, because it's a very popular Dalek, and then alongside it have a Children of the Revolution drone Dalek, the gold drone Dalek as well. You know, there's lots of really nice things, and I really love this Dalek colour scheme as well, because it's one that's, you know, black and red Daleks, well, red Daleks in general, you know, red Daleks are a bit of a continuity thing when it comes to Doctor Who. You know, until the new series, we didn't actually ever see a red Dalek. So seeing a classic red Dalek, you know, actually as a figure, a proper released figure, is fantastic. It's nice to see that, certainly. And the 8th Doctor itself is a nice sort of variant, just a very simple repaint of the original TV movie release from the 11 Doctors set. But yeah, it does make me wonder that, you know, that there might be a demand for them to re-release this set and maybe a few of the others. I think like the first Doctor with the Supreme Dalek. Now we've had the history of the Dalek sets and things like that. You know, there's some of them which are probably less likely to be released than others, but this one, you know, specifically because it's very unlikely this will be part of a history of the Dalek set, would be a great one to see re-released. And maybe other ones like, for example, perhaps the anti-Lightwave Dalek and 3rd Doctor, unless that is released in a history of the Dalek set. You know, it would certainly be one that would be a nice release. But this one especially, I think, would certainly be one that would sell very well, because I know it is one that is sought after by many fans. I think this is actually the second most sought after of this Toys R Us range after the 9th Doctor set. I believe that one is the rarest, but after that the 8th Doctor set, I think, is the one that is the most sought after by people. But it is fantastic to see. But the other reason for doing a retro review about this is I wanted to talk about something which I have seen mentioned on a few other videos I've done, and in the comment section of things about future 8th Doctor releases. I know one thing that many people have been looking forward to is an 8th Doctor and 8th Doctor and TARDIS set from the TV movie. The problem there, though, is that it means I think, and I'm only going by what I've heard online, so I want to make it clear that I'm just repeating, you know, things that are said online. It may not necessarily be true. But I believe it is to do with the licensing of the TV movie, which is why that is unlikely to happen. And I know some people have said that they could get around that by doing, say, re-release the Night of the Doctor version. But again, that would really entail releasing a 8th Doctor / War Doctor TARDIS, which some of you may know was prototyped before it was dropped for reasons of budget and cost. So that is unlikely. However, it does make me wonder, because they've made this version, if it would be easier to perhaps do a re-release of this figure of the 8th Doctor alongside a classic TARDIS done in the movie style, as it were, but with a few sort of small differences that make it stand out different from the TV movie, because obviously this version, whilst it does use the TV movie sculpt, he's obviously got a very different costume, and you know, the way that that comes together means that, you know, they can get around, or sort of get around, the movie licensing. So, you know, it might be a way of doing a TV movie, well, not a TV movie TARDIS, but a 8th Doctor and TARDIS set would be to license it from one of the comics. And, you know, personally, I quite like this. I really like this figure, and in many ways I prefer it to the original one, because you know, the nice thing about this version is he's got the blue coat, and obviously with Time Lord Victorious he's got the blue coat, and as some of you may know, I did a blue coated version for my Doctor Is In series, which was based on something from the How to Be a Time Lord book, which was much lighter blue, but again, it was sort of, he does have a blue coat, so there would be a nice sort of continuity to doing that, and seeing this sort of version of seeing this version of the Doctor sort of done again, because it is one of those ones that I think is just something a bit different, you know, and it's nice to see the comics getting some recognition as well. As someone who is a big fan of the comics, I know a lot of people sort of dismiss them, saying, you know, the comics aren't canon because they're comics and things like that, but there's a lot you miss out, and, you know, this is a really nice set to see this realised as a proper set. You know, in many ways it was sort of a bit of a precursor to getting the Big Finish sets, you know, because it was a media that you wouldn't have normally thought would be adapted to figures, but here it is, you know, and as I said, the Dalek itself inside is absolutely superb. The colour scheme and the work on it is brilliant, and it's one that I would certainly love to see re-released, especially if it was alongside a drone in a 2-pack set. You know, I know they did that for the 375 scale, so it's obviously something which they can get the licensing to do. So maybe when it, you know, when the time comes around, if they find themselves with being able to do the licensing again, re-releasing this Dalek, perhaps not as a History of the Daleks set, but as either a set like this, re-releasing this straight up as a Doctor and Dalek set, or as a sort of semi-History of the Daleks set with the Alpha Dalek and a drone version, the gold drone, would certainly be one I think would please fans a lot. You know, it is a very nice set. As I said, this has been a bit of a different review. I'm more doing sort of talking than reviewing, but, you know, there's not really a lot I can say about this as a retro review that, you know, isn't already well known, or isn't something that, you know, at the end of the day, it is just your standard figure with your standard articulation, and the Dalek, with the exception of having the Alpha sign on its dome, is just your standard Dalek, really, you know. So it was a good opportunity to sort of talk over a couple of things, mention a few things that I know that is often on the minds of the fans and the collectors of the figures. You know, and this is like I said, this is a great example, specifically because it's the 8th Doctor, of how, you know, whilst the 8th Doctor is a bit of perhaps not a difficult quantity to produce, there are certainly ways around it. You know, they've done it once, they've done it before, and I'm sure they'll do it again. So, you know, it would be it raises an interesting question, put it that way. So in the comments, if you had to choose between getting a comic based 8th Doctor and TARDIS set to getting nothing at all, which would you prefer? Would you rather only have it if it was the TV version, or would you be happy to settle for a comic version? You know, again, I want to make it clear, I'm not, you know, doing research or anything on behalf of character options. I'm not, you know, claiming that, you know, anything like this is coming. This is purely as a fan, speaking to other fans, just putting the idea out there and just seeing what people think. In the same way that I did with the, you know, the Missy and the Dalek set a while back on my YouTube community page and Facebook and Twitter page and things like that. But that brings to a close another What I Think review. As always, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, favorite, subscribe, share, it really helps me out a lot. Be sure to look in the description below for a link to my Patreon. I'm doing my very first figure animation and you can get involved. There's exclusive content and rewards for those who do so, and funding my Patreon in any way gets your name at the end of my videos. I salute you all, and I will see you with another video very soon.